Welcome to the Free Library of Philadelphia Online. I'm Andy Cahan, Director of Author Events, and it's my pleasure to welcome our guests this evening. Stephanie Schriock has served as the president of Emily's List since 2010 and has steered the 5 million member organization to some of the greatest victories seen in its 35-year history. These triumphs included the election of many pro-choice women Democratic U.S. senators, U.S. representatives, governors, and state and local officials. And yes, that list now includes vice president. Currently on the board of advisors of the anti-voter suppression group Let America Vote, Schriock served as the national finance director of Howard Dean's presidential campaign and managed the Senate races of Jon Tester in 2006 and Al Franken in 2008. In her new book, Run to Win, written with Christina Reynolds, Schriock offers strategies women can use to succeed in politics and other male-dominated fields. Our recent guest, Stacey Abrams, writes, Run to Win demystifies how to tackle the challenges of campaigns using authentic voices to welcome readers with honesty, compassion, and humor. Tonight, Schriock will be in conversation with Yvette Nicole Brown, star of screens big and small and known to audiences for her roles in Community, Now the Mayor, Supermansion, The Odd Couple, and many other films and TV shows. She also recently joined the board of Emily's List. Stephanie and Yvette, the screen is all yours.
Wow, that was great. Thank you, Andy. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, Yvette. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad to be here. I wanted to again thank Andy and thank all the viewers for joining us tonight. And in doing so, as we start this, I want to just say that I stand in solidarity with the concerned Black workers and their efforts on behalf of their employees. Wanted to start with that. Okay, Stephanie, now you have written this amazing book. How did Run to Win come about?
Well, first, I just want to very much thank the Free Library of Philadelphia for having us. And
yes,
Yvette,
thank you.
I mean, amazing that you're here. And also, thank you for noting, I too stand with the workers in solidarity. And I think that's such an important thing we all need to be doing today. So the book, though, what an exciting, sometimes I'm like, there's a name. My name is on a book. I called my dad. I was like, our name is on the book. So, and to have Christina Reynolds, my co-author, friend, colleague, just a truly amazing communications specialist in the Democratic Party, join me in this endeavor. It's been fabulous. And we really felt, particularly as we were entering into 2017, where we began to see the great number of women rising up to take back their community, their country, the world, that we wanted to share the stories. And as we were keeping the stories together about these brave women, we realized that we also needed to put together a book that included just some lessons to help all women of all backgrounds in all businesses, frankly, to find their voice, their power, and to rise up in leadership no matter where they are and take their place at the table. And so that's what we tried to put together here, and really thrilled that we were able to set out some lessons. I hope that everyone can find something in this book.
Yeah, you guys created something that's actually not just for women running for office. It's lessons for everyone. I want to give the viewers just the names of the chapters. Just want people to know what's in here and how it will help you whether you run for office or not. Okay, let me get to the beginning here. We have number 1, ask yourself the right questions. Be honest about the answers. Hello, that's for everybody everywhere. Number 2, break the rules, break out of the box, right? Know your story. This is number 3. Know your story. Learn how to tell it. Number 4, build your team. That was my favorite chapter because it talked about the different types of people that you need on your side. The one that's going to tell you the truth, the one that's going to tell you you look good, the one that's going to tell you when you mess up. All of that stuff is necessary. The next one is learn how to make the ask, because anything we do in life, especially running for office, you have to ask for help. You have to learn how to do it. Next is grow thicker skin. The next one is get back up. A loss is just part of your journey. And lastly, campaign joyfully, show gratitude deliberately, and celebrate liberally. Can we talk a little bit about these chapters and what made you go, this needs to be included? We're going to do a deeper dive, but I just want to talk about the beauty of that.
It's just a sort of a path to find yourself into your own next journey.
Mhm.
And maybe not all of them are applicable at every moment,
Mhm.
but there are bits and pieces that no matter where you are and what you're doing, I mean, just think about making the ask. Okay, women, I'm telling you, I know sometimes we're a little scared to ask for what we deserve and what we want and what we need.
Mhm.
And we wanted to talk about that, not just from a campaign point of view, which of course candidates have to ask for a lot of money and they ask directly, but we also want to ask for promotions. We want to ask for salary increases. We want to ask for change in our communities.
Mhm.
So I think there's just something in all of this, in this book that I really think will be fun. And as you read it, you'll also see throughout the book these great stories. You'll read a little bit about me and my story, but also these candidates who kind of took their own journey, and sometimes forks came in the road and they had to make choices and they had to learn how to do all this. And sometimes they came in with preconceived notions like, wait a second, can I run if I don't have a law degree? The answer, yes, please.
Yes.
Please, we need all backgrounds to run. And so just we just wanted to kind of demystify
Mhm.
all of this because, okay, let's face it, this isn't rocket science. I think rocket science is hard. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems hard to go to the moon. It just does, or to Mars or to Venus. I just think this is all hard. This is not that.
Right.
This is finding the pieces of the puzzle and getting the help and learning and putting it together. We can all do this.
Demystifying is the best word I can say about your book. It kind of peels back the curtain and lets you know that we all are equipped to do this. And the thing that I love the most about it was the idea about if you lose, and you may, dust yourself off and get back up. There's a lot of women who a lot of people, the first time they run, they don't win. I mean, we have a new president who tried how many times and then he finally won. So I'm just saying, I love that part of it. Okay, so
true.
one
And
of the
that's in
biggest,
anything. Like we all lose in different things, right?
we
Sometimes
do.
you lose in love. You can lose
Listen,
in work,
get out of my
right?
diary.
Let's face it, we've all been through it. But we
So
gotta
true.
get back up.
Gotta get back up.
It's
Gotta
a
get
part
back
of
up.
the journey. Part of the
Yes.
journey.
Now, one of the biggest changes for women candidates in the last few years happened after the 2016 campaign. Because of it, a lot of voters became more aware of the gendered coverage and attacks women face in politics. And many of us also see and often endure misogyny and racism every day on social media. So, how does that awareness change things for women running?
You know, I ought to be honest, and I talk about this a little bit in the book as well, is after 2016, when Hillary Clinton lost to that guy,
That guy.
thankfully the former, shall we just
Thank
call him
you.
the former now?
Call it the former.
Let's call him the former. That I was really nervous. I mean, you know, Emily's List has been committed now for 35 years to elect pro-choice Democratic women to office, and our job is at the very core is to get women to run. And we were really worried that the nastiness, the constant attacks on Secretary Clinton were going to result in women wanting to step back. I was wrong, like super wrong. Instead, it started a revolution of women stepping up, rising up, you know, to first to march, and then they just kept on marching right back into their communities, and they said, I want to run for office and I'm going to go do it. But it doesn't mean that there isn't sexism. That doesn't mean there isn't racism. That doesn't mean this is any easier.
Right.
And you said it, Yvette, social media, as we are I mean, we all knew that there's toxicity in these systems. Well, it gets really bad for a lot of our women, and that's where you got to grow that tough skin. You got to build a network of support around you, because I'll tell you, you can work through it. You can get through it, but I'm not trying to say it's easy. I'm just trying to say you're tough enough to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Now, we've witnessed Vice President Kamala Harris, who wrote the foreword of your book, break a glass ceiling just last week. What's your message to those who will look at that example and other successes women have made recently and say, well, It's just easy for women to get elected. It's just as easy for women as it is for men.
And I was like, can we just look at the count? Can we just talk about the numbers for a second?
Right.
As in, this country still has not had a woman president. We should have had, I don't know, 20 by now.
I know.
This is Kamala Harris, which even just hearing it still gives me the chills. You literally just saying it gives me the chills.
Me too.
Which means that's how novel this is. That is how unusual this is. She is the first woman, the first African American, the first South Asian American to be vice president, the first of all of them.
First.
I mean, which is cool, but okay.
Yeah.
If things were even and equal, there would have been many, many, many. And Congress is really just about a quarter women, one quarter women. This country's population is over 50% women.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for this other than the systemic sexism and racism, because we also have, way too few African Americans, way too few Latinx, way too few Asian American, way too few Native American. We just elected the first 2 Native American women to the U.S. House in 2018. 2018.
It's crazy.
That just happened. So we have to be intentional about this work, and we have to say it is important because it brings the perspectives of all of our communities onto the table when we're making policies, and the policies will be better. They will be more well-rounded, and they will include everybody. That's why we do this.
That's why we do it. Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Love her so much. She is a boss. She has shown us that time and time again. Why do you think she still receives so much pushback, and at times from even other progressive women, about how long she served? And what has she taught you personally about leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it's first off, it's always tough to be at the top for anybody. Gender aside, it's tough to be at the top. So there is that. But there is, unfortunately, an extra layer when it comes to women who are in the top spot. And they do, as we know, get more scrutiny, and it's nastier scrutiny. It's not just on differences of policy, but it's undercutting character in ways that's just completely inappropriate. But that's where we are. And then the thing about Speaker Pelosi, first off, I don't know where her energy comes from, because just watching her makes me tired.
Yeah.
She is an Energizer bunny, and I am just in awe of her. And I will admit, I grew up in Montana, in a very different world than San Francisco, California. I wasn't always totally aligned with what I was kind of stewed in, which was sort of this idea of the liberal San Francisco. And then I realized that's not at all who she is. Nancy Pelosi is a stateswoman that is above all of it, and has this, I sort of described it as every woman does things differently, just like men do.
Yeah.
And we have to stop thinking there's only one style of leadership.
That's right.
For women, right? There's all kinds of styles. And Speaker Pelosi's style, I'll even admit, fully understand it until I was in the role of the president of Emily's List and saw it truly close up. There is I would say almost a feminine strength to her that is not loud, but it is unbelievably powerful. It is hard to say no to her. She's not yelling at you. She is asking, and it is like, okay, yes, ma'am. How much more? No, there is a strength that is so powerful, and I think so many of us, sort of, I'm a Gen Xer and the millennials, like, we should look at her as another example of different kind of women's leadership. Hillary Clinton has a different kind of leadership. Stacey Abrams, as we mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan. Hopefully, as many know, probably everybody watching, St. Abrams of Georgia, who helped deliver 2 Senate seats, and Biden's victory with a lot of help, obviously. But she too brings her own way about her. And that's what this is about. And it all starts with their story.
Right.
All starts with their story.
That's one thing, at being on the advisory creative council for Emily's List, and now thankfully and gratefully on the board, I was able to attend a lot of events for Emily's List. And what I love is the part where we hear their story. Before the candidates get up to speak, they tell us who they are, and they tell us in a way that is real and where you can see yourself in it. And every time someone would speak, I'd try to find them after the lunch and go, well, I just really was so blessed. So I love the way Emily's List, just giving you guys your flowers, how you prepare all of these candidates to be themselves. And that's what Run to Win also does. It's like a manual on how to be yourself and show the world what you in particular have to offer. So thank you to you and Christina for creating this wonderful thing that will go far beyond even election cycles. This is something that women can use, and even men can use in life.
That's right.
To figure it out.
I mean, we're in such a moment right now, and we've been in these moments before in American history where there's such a divide, and there's so much anger, and there's so much distrust. And I will truly believe the only way to break through that is to build a foundation of trust. And that starts with getting to know people.
Yeah.
So it's Nancy Pelosi's best strength, is that she knows literally everything about everybody she's ever met.
Yeah.
But you do that by opening yourself up and being willing to be a little transparent. It can be a little scary, right? If you like, but it'd be a little vulnerable. And for so long, generations of women were told they couldn't do that because if they showed weakness, therefore they would never be able to be successful. I counter that. That is not true. Being very honest and open and transparent with a little vulnerability allows others to open up and do the same. And that's how you move change and build movements.
Yes. Many of the stories in the book are from the groundbreaking 2018 cycle. How did campaigns and candidates change during that cycle? And have you seen a change for women since you've been at Emily's List?
Yeah, it is. It was amazing, and it was that's happening. And thankfully, we've been through enough election cycles at Emily's List. Like, okay, we just have to grow fast to handle volume, because the volume's coming. For all these years, for decades, we were begging women to run for office in a lot of cases. And what has changed, even in my tenure, is that women are stepping up and making decisions faster about running, which is a huge deal. Because it used to be that the men would be just jump in fast, and then we would jump in later, and then they'd say, well, why are you running against this really nice guy? I'm like, it's a primary, it's an open seat. Why wouldn't we? Like, why do you get a free ride? Because you're a dude? Like, this is not how we're going to do this. But what's really started happening, and really in the last 4 years, is the speed, the volume, the diversity of women stepping up. My goodness, you've got a nurse and healthcare policy expert in Lauren Underwood. You have a former flight attendant and mother who lost her son to gun violence in Lucy McBath. You have a pediatrician in Kim Schriock. You have a former CIA agent, wanted to clarify that, in Abigail Spanberger. You have women who have served in combat. And when this group of women came up in 17 and then 18 and 1, they weren't going to do it the same old. Like, they'll do the tactics like you do the tactics. You got to buy the TV, you got to raise the money, that stuff. But they went out there with their stories. They were honest about who they were. They told it like it was. MJ Hager, who was at the time in 18 running for Congress in Texas, is a woman who fought the military to be placed into combat. She succeeded and did that for women all through the military. Unfortunately, was injured in combat and then came back to continue her public service. But one of the things she did is that, and you should, if you haven't seen it, you should, MJ Hager, you should look it up, her congressional race. she did an ad that talked about her tattoos. She's
I
got
loved it.
tattoos, right?
Loved it.
Well,
Cherry blossoms.
and it was about her wounds and the story of her tattoo. I got to be honest, I've been doing this for a long time now. In the 90s, I told a guy a man who was running for Congress to hide his tattoo because we didn't think voters would be even open to seeing such, like, you got to break out of the box. Is what I'm saying is they're breaking out of the box. They're trying new things. Not everything's working, but at least we're trying new things. And that has an authenticity to it that we need in our politics and our lives.
And you know what, too, I think what 2016, if there's any gift to be found from the experience, it's that we finally know that anybody can run.
Yeah. It's not how I wanted us to learn.
Yeah, I didn't want to learn it that way either.
Not how I wanted us to learn.
But I think it really taught people that, because this is what I always say, if you have a heart for people, I think it should start there, where you're someone that actually wants to help, then, get in there.
Okay, well, and that's a good point. That's why we start with ask the hard questions and know why you're doing it. And let's face it, the former did not do it because he had love in his heart for the people of this country, right? That is not, like, that really does matter. And it's one of the reasons we work so hard at Emily's List, advancing pro-choice Democratic women, because there's a sense of values here that really matter. I agree. But I'm so glad that we are breaking through the mindset that you can look different, you can sound different, you can be from different places as women, and that's okay. That's actually, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
Well, I talked a little bit about this at the beginning, listing some of the chapters, but what I love about the book is that it reminds candidates of the skills they need to run a successful campaign. What are some of the skills that we can all use, whether we're running for office or not?
And that's a great question. So I've already talked a little bit about telling your story. And I think, as I said, I think that is a key piece of just building trust that you need in the workplace to be successful. And I don't care what workplace you're in, doesn't matter. Or if you're working in nonprofits or you're volunteering, it's just an important part. Learn to tell your story, what your quick story is. It'll make a huge difference. I also, we've got a whole section that sort of talks about, I talked about the asking. Everybody's got to ask for things. That's really, really important too. And I love that part. Christina in particular talks a little bit about, when things go awry and how do you handle, sometimes there's things that go awry. And we walk through that, because here's the thing, things go awry. Not everything's perfect. That's okay. That's part of the reason we really ask people to think about, particularly when you're running for office, know your history. Take the time to do the research, to know your own background. And there's things that we just all have forgotten. And it's not that any of this is so damaging that there's a no way, you got to look at it, you might got to make a decision, because it's probably going to come out. And so you got to be comfortable with it coming out, and whatever it is, and then you got to have a response. And Stacey Abrams did this brilliantly. She was running for governor. She realized that one of the perceived hits on her was that she was carrying a significant amount of student debt.
I remember this her answer, but go ahead and tell him.
And she jumped him. She jumped him, and she told the story, and then told the story in a way that connected with everybody who has student debt. And the structural problems, particularly in the Black community, around student debt and all debt. And the way she did it was masterful.
And also the idea of choosing to care for your family, to not worry about money. I made decisions to help the people that I love. Like, that to me touched me too. Like, who hasn't had to make a decision about where should this money go? I thought that endeared her with everyone, but
it was just incredible. It was just incredible. Which gets to the one other part, and there's so much in the book. But you mentioned it early on as one of your favorites too, which is sort of, there's a whole section on building your team.
Yeah.
And we get into the weeds a little bit on it. Like, this is what a campaign actually looks like, and the campaign team. But we also talk about, like, what's your friend support? What's your
Yeah.
family support? Who's going to stand with you in the good times and the bad? Who's going to be straight with you when you need him to be? And who's going to give you a big hug when you can
Yeah.
hug again? I
Yeah.
can't wait.
I
When,
know.
and knowing who's going to be in that camp with you is really important. And that's for everybody. First off, it just makes sense because it means you will succeed together. So I think that's really key. And also it just makes life better.
Yeah.
Just makes
You
life
know,
better.
it takes a lot of courage to run for office and to try to change the world. So can you tell me how you coach candidates to find their courage and the confidence that it takes to run for office?
Yeah, the good news, and one of the things I've really seen change is just this drive for change in women. Like women want to make change. So many want to do it. They may not know exactly what to do, and that's one of the reasons we put together the book. That's why Emily's List exists. We can walk through this process. But there are still times where we sit down and somebody will say to us, well, I don't have all those things that I need. Like, I really did think I needed a law degree. We hear that, we still get that question. We get that question all the time. Like, we just elected nurses and teachers and homemakers, and like you name it. And we still get that question. And I was like, no. Like, we can do all this. This is not, we need the perspectives that you bring. We need the policymakers to have different perspectives. But a lot of what we do is, I think just sit down, be truthful about the process. I don't know how you are, but I really want to know what I'm getting into before I get into things. And in my experience at Emily's List with women, that's what we want. We want to know what we're getting into before we jump, because so many of us have to worry about our families. And even if that family isn't children and spouses, but it's also extended family, brothers, you never know. But we're always like, how is this going to affect the whole extended family? And they need to have good answers for that. And the truth is, we just walk them through, because the other thing is we have so many examples of women, role models, who can share their stories and walk you through how they got there. Whether it's Vice President Kamala Harris, who started as a DA and worked herself on up, or Elizabeth Warren, who ran for office for the first time for U.S. Senate. But there's examples of all of that. Mothers with younger children, which is also something I've seen change dramatically, and I'm so thrilled. We actually didn't have that many women running with younger children, women with children, but women felt they had to wait to run after the children graduated, got out of high school at least. And that has changed. And I think that's great. Because we need the government. I mean, if we're going to talk about K through 12 policy, then we should have folks who are involved in K through 12 policy right now.
Exactly. I think a lot of it for women is giving yourself permission to believe, right, that you can do it. And what always baffles me is that women are the greatest multitaskers. Like we can do 5,000 things, and why we don't always just inherently know that what you do in your household or what you do at your job, it will 100% translate to how you will manage things if you run for office. And I just wish we would get that. Now, I like to ask questions like this because I think you find out a lot about people based on who inspires them or who makes them want to reach higher. So can you give me some examples first of women's leadership that inspires you? And then second, which is my favorite question to ask now, who was your mentor? Who was a teacher or a neighbor? Who was the person when you were younger that stepped in at a point in your life and was pivotal in getting you on the path that you're on now? And I want you to have a chance to say their name and give them flowers and let everyone know that I'm here because of this person. So you can start with leaders that inspire you, and then you can go to the mentor that really affected you.
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I love that question. The leaders that inspire are such a long list, because every time I think I've seen it all, something new happens. I'm just like the day that Deb Haaland, Congresswoman from New Mexico, was announced as the nominee for Secretary of Interior. I'm actually almost going to cry to think about it, because when Sharice Davids and Deb Haaland, the first two Native American women, won their seats in Congress, and I had the great honor of sitting with one of my other heroes, Ellen Malcolm, who started Emily's List, who is truly a great stateswoman, ran Emily's List for 25 years. The two of us watched the swearing in when you could go into the building legally. And in 2019, the swearing in that happened in January of 19. And I was looking at this beautiful floor in the House of Representatives as Nancy Pelosi was becoming speaker again. And she is an inspiration to me every day.
Me too.
But I looked at every single one of those women and their multicolored, outfits that wear that. And I saw Deb and Sharice, and Deb was wearing her tribe's colors. And they were standing together in this beautiful moment. And I just got so emotional because what that means for so many Native American girls to see that moment. That same year, the two first Muslim American women won. And what does that mean? What does it mean when you see a Kamala Harris, who I just am so inspired? It means everything. It means, and not just to the race of those women, but to women like me who do this work. So the list is so long, and it doesn't have to be someone who's sitting in Congress. I have been wowed by women, including, I go back to Stacey Abrams. When Stacey Abrams was minority leader in the House of Representatives in Georgia, before she even ran for governor, I was blown away by her. So they're everywhere. I guess what I say is look everywhere. So it's really fantastic. On the person, I've had lots of folks along the way, including parents who, and I am blessed. My mom's, who's right over my shoulder, she's no longer, Janet, she's no longer with us. We lost her to breast cancer 13 years ago. But my mom and dad were just champions of mine every step of the way. And I know not everybody has that. And I am so, so lucky. And my dad he's still my business coach. I was like, okay, I need business dad tonight. Sometimes I need dad. I just tell him ahead of time. He's amazing. But there is one person I got to do shout out to. I would not be here. I would not be here if not for my fourth grade teacher, Miss Gray. Miss Gray at Whittier Elementary in Butte, Montana, saw something in me that I did not see in myself. She knew I had this drive, but I wasn't the smartest kid in the class. I, struggled with some of the subjects, but I worked really hard. And there was a program in Butte at the time. I hope it's still there. I don't know if it is, but there's an accelerated learning program where they'd pull out the top students out of all of the elementary schools and put them into a program that was to advance their education. And I did not get in initially. And she fought for me.
Miss Gray.
And she got me in. And I don't know. I would not be here without her, period. Done. End of sentence.
I love it. See, the thing that I love about that question is whenever someone answers it, you can see them going back in their mind and reliving their moments with their person or one of their people. And it's just their countenance changes. You can see what that person did for you or for them. So thank you for that. And thank you, Miss Gray. We're gonna go to questions. This is my last question for you, and then we're gonna go to the wonderful questions that are in the chat for you. How about this? This is my last one for you. As president of Emily's List, what has been the hardest news or conversation you've had to have with a candidate, and how did it impact the way you lead?
Oh man,
it's a good one, right?
That's a tough one. I got to think of one that I can share.
That you can share. Speaking generalities.
I can be general. The toughest conversations I've had with candidates have been when things have gone awry and it's not going to work anymore.
Oh, it's over.
and
Yeah.
it's over. And you got to find sort of the landing out. And we will do everything to make that as easy as possible. It doesn't happen very often, but events occur, and for lots of reasons, events occur where again, those are painful because these are folks who, we're kind of on the path, and to have something, obstacle jump in the way, that just, it's brutal. I'd also say it's never easy talking to a candidate after she loses. But that being said, more and more I get this like hunger from them, and we're finding it that more and more are ready to run again right away, which was not the case as often earlier. So there is something changing. But I do remember a conversation, actually this was after the election, and we had to make a decision about whether or not, it was a close one. And you're like, do you keep fighting it, or is there just not enough votes there? And there, we've got ways to do analysis to understand. And she and I sat in a conference room and walked through it, and in tears, both of us in tears, knew that she wasn't going to win. And we ended it. She ended it. That she just ended her and conceded. But then she came back. She ran again. So that's, like I said, this is all part of a journey, and a loss or disruption is not the end of the world. There's always more.
As you prepare for new adventures in life,
yes,
what is the greatest gift of Emily's List to you? Because I could list about 50 things that Emily's List has brought to me, and you have a long time with them. Is there anything that you want to share about your time with this amazing company that you will take with you always?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, after 11 years of serving as the second only two presidents, I'm the second. I've decided to move on for just new opportunities, which I think is good for everybody to think about their lives as they do this. And so I'm wrapping up at the end of March.
And I want to say this too. I did not intend to ask this, but
no,
because we even talked about it before. But you're such a wealth of information, and you're such a joyous person. One of your greatest gifts, Stephanie, is that you move through life with such joy. And I know that whatever you do next, whatever you choose to do next, you will imbue it with that same amount of joy. And so I wanted to give you a chance to share what this being the president of this amazing organization, and all the lives that you've changed, and what is your takeaway from this wonderful gift that you got and that you gave from? You are the gift. So what did you take away?
No, I am not the gift.
For me, you are one of my gifts.
Oh, that is so good. I received little and big blessings every day. And I think the best parts of the job, the very best, were not the wins, actually. It's the staff. It's these young women and men. We do hire men, by the way. Not very many. We will. They don't apply at the same number. But these young, just wide-eyed, ready to take on the world, typically in their early 20s when they get started. And I learned so much from them, from their individual conversation. And in a time where our world is changing so rapidly, I have watched Emily's List and have tried to guide Emily's List through this moment of transformational change, I hope, around racial justice. And we are far from getting that. We are like at the very, I don't even know where we're on the line. But I'm a white kid who grew up in Butte, Montana. And I just didn't know what I didn't know to start with. I didn't. And then when I started finding out and started even figuring out the questions to ask, it was my staff, my team, sometimes senior staff, and oftentimes brand new first-time staff, that would give me just a bit of information that I didn't know, that completely changed my leadership, particularly as it related to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
I am better today than I was 11 years ago, but I have lifelong learning, as I think we all do.
We all do. We all do.
In this endeavor. I hadn't even started that before I got to Emily's List. It is ultimately the biggest gift the organization has given to me. And I am just in awe of these wonderful young people, mostly women, who have been willing to give a little bit of themselves to me to take away.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to add your humility to the other thing that is wonderful about you. We're going to finally move to questions. Sorry, guys, to keep you waiting there. Here's a good one. This is from Stephanie Wiseman. She says, what are some of the types of local offices someone could run for that would still allow you to work full time?
Well, it varies. This is where you got to do your research. You got to ask a lot of questions because it often varies where you live. Are you in a big city or a small town? In fact, I have a staff person on staff at Emily's List right now, who is a town select woman in New Hampshire, an elected position. I'm so proud of her because she called me for a fundraising contribution tonight. She called her boss for a fundraising. I'm telling you, you can do this. And you know what? I said yes. Yes. I said yes to Ms. Molly Cowan. I'm so proud of her. So you've got to kind of see what's available and how your community works. A lot of city councils, you can absolutely work. A lot of school board situations, absolutely you can work. You get into these major cities though, the big city, New York City, Chicago, LA, you're talking full-time jobs. But in most places, county jobs, city jobs, go to those local websites. Emily's List is building out, and we've got some of that information on our website. If you put your zip code in, it could show some of that. It's hard to gather because it's a lot. Because it's amazing. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of offices across this country that people can run for. Excuse me. Do not run from. Do not run for. Do not run for. Yes. And you'd be, there's the funny thing is a whole show called Parks and Recs. Well, there's a reason for that. That is actually an elected job in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So there's just so many opportunities. You just got to do a little research and then find out what the responsibilities are for those.
This question is from Leah Schneck. I like your name, Leah.
Yeah.
Who is one candidate that hasn't gotten a lot of attention that you think everyone should know about?
Oh my gosh, this is always, let me think. Oh my gosh.
You can pick two if you need to. Like if you can't just pick one, you can give a couple of names. If you can, because maybe it's not fair for you to promote one.
No, it's hard. It's hard, right? Because I always feel like I love them all.
I know they're like your babies. You love them all.
I do. But there are so many rising stars, and every year we do at Emily's List what's called the Gabrielle Giffords Rising Star Award winner, and we nominate, I think there's about 6 women who get nominated every year. And in fact, one of the Gabrielle Giffords Rising Star Award winners is your very own in Philadelphia, Helen Gim. So, you've got great women right in Philadelphia. For those that are in the Philadelphia watching, I know we're watching all over because we're virtual, but for those who are watching in the Philadelphia area, someone like Helen is just a great a great example of rising stars. Our first Rising Star Award winner, by the way, not to just keep going back to her, Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
So they do great things.
They really do.
Great things, which we just love.
This is a twofer from Judith Buckman. She says, I am a longtime women's rights activist. Could you give a few suggestions of how women like me could concretely thank Black women for saving democracy in the recent election? And how can we create more Stacey Abrams? Thank you, Judith. That was not a plant.
I love that. First off, that one, you did the right thing right there. So we got to do a lot of that. And thank you. And look for some good, there's a couple of good organizations that we work with at Emily's List that I think are extraordinary when it comes to our partnerships and getting more and more Black women in particular engaged in office. One is Higher Heights. Another is Black Pack, and the other is The Collective. And those three organizations we work with all the time. They are awesome, and you should look at them and support those organizations, because I will say, like, just like Black candidates, the organizations are underfunded too. It just, we've got to equalize that. And I realize, like, there's a starting line here, but not everybody's at the starting line.
Right.
And we got to do some work to make sure that all of our candidates are at the starting line. So the other thing I would say is there are great Black women in office now, particularly if you look at a Lauren Underwood, who is a rising star in Illinois in Congress. I talked about Lucy McBath, Ayanna Pressley up in Massachusetts, Lisa Blunt Rochester, who's in Delaware. There's just these great women, and I'm just Karen Bass in California. I can go on and on. Yeah. But these wonderful women in the House, so many, I think, should be looking at Senate runs in the future, governor runs in the future, and we got to get on top of that. And I can tell you now through our recruitment that we are actively looking for a number of strong Black women to run in U.S. Senate seats across the country and in governorships. It's not just going to be Stacey Abrams. I mean, in fact, to make things fun and exciting for us, I live in Virginia. We've got two amazing Black women running right now, Jennifer McClellan and Jennifer Carroll Foy. Yes, they're both Jennifers. Yes. Both amazing, which is making it a challenge for us, but they're so good. You should get to know both of them. Yeah. They're really amazing. It's a multi-candidate primary. That's the other new thing that is happening. There's just more primaries that we're managing. That's okay, because you know what? That's a sign that women are willing to stand up. But adopt, when we get to a place, and I would say probably about, well, Virginia's governorship is now, so that's that election's in November. But as you know, so look at that. But I would say, you know, maybe in 6 to 9 months, check out our site, check out Higher Heights, adopt a candidate or two. And back them up with a little bit of financial resources, because if everybody does that, that will help. And then see what else you can do, even from wherever you live, to help a U.S. Senate candidate or a U.S. House candidate, a Black woman who is trying to step out and lead.
And you'd be surprised what amplifying on social media does too. Even if you don't have like hundreds of thousands of followers, if you have 50, telling them, hey, I found this great new candidate and I think she's great and she's in our city, we should probably give $5 or whatever we have to this person.
And we all need to do that. It's for white women and brown women, Black women to do this for each other. This is for the sisterhood. There is a brotherhood, and they take care of theirs.
Yes, they do.
We got to do this. We have to do this, and we have to take an extra, go the extra miles, and I mean miles, for our Black sisters and our Latina sisters and our Asian American sisters and our Native American sisters, because it is not equal. I've seen it over and over again. We have to do better.
Okay, so I want to be mindful of your time, but there's like a couple of really great questions I want to get in here.
I'll be sure. I'm sorry.
Okay, listen. Do you understand? Do you see this background? This is your day, honey. You use this time how you want. Okay, so this.
Talking about these women.
Okay, so and we love that. Okay, so this is, I want to pronounce your name right because it's so beautiful. Ayanu Osunmu. It's such a beautiful name. Forgive me if I just butchered it. She wants to know what jobs, classes, or experiences prepare aspiring politicians for running for office. Are there certain places that you should study and start to do this?
That's great. There's a number of opportunities for trainings. Emily's List, and check out emilyslist.org. We do a lot of virtual trainings and have virtual. We used to have in-person trainings.
Yeah, well, listen,
we will again. I promise. We will have in-person.
We can't leave our houses, Stephanie.
I know we can do. Guess what? We can do it from here. It's easy. We can do this. And we also have a training center that has a lot of great information. But there's a lot of other sister organizations like Emerge in some states. It varies state by state. That can be helpful. But there's here's the thing. Get a training if that's makes you feel comfortable, but don't think you absolutely need training. Like
Mhm.
you can start getting involved with Emily's list and join, if you're thinking about running for office, and join our Run to Win program, and you'll start getting information and you can go. Because what I also worry is a lot of women in particular have been told, well, you need training, you need training and more training and more training. And then I call it the training hamster wheel.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I got to push you off. You got to go run now. You got to go. Get off the hamster wheel. You got to go. You'll be amazed. You can do this. It's about
Yeah.
people. You already have most of the skills. The rest we can tell you what to do. You can
Right.
do this. You just got to like jump and come check us out, and you'll get the roadmap and you'll go. Again, we're not going to the moon here.
Right.
We're just talking to our neighbors and sharing our vision and
Yeah.
hearing what they want. There you go. Politics. It's about
Yeah.
people.
I love that. Gilda Johnson would like to know, how do we get Democratic messages across to a broader range of America, i.e. red America? She said, I believe we have a strong message for them, but a lot of them are so anti-Dems.
Well, that might be the biggest question of the night.
Fix it, Stephanie, fix it all.
And I, growing up in a red state like I did in Montana, I hear you, and I've got a lot of family in the Midwest, so I totally get this. And the divide is big. It's going to take some time because folks have gotten very much in their camps, and they don't want other people in their camps. And we are going to have to find ways to communicate that they're ready to hear, not how we want to tell them.
Right.
And this does not start with, why are you voting against your own interests? They're not. That's not what's going on. Wow. They have a different interest. We have to hear what's going on. We have to understand what their concerns are, because most of it's fear. Most of it is deep. They're deeply scared. And we have to build trust, back to building trust, which means they got to get to know people at an individual level. I think this happens on the grassroots level. I think even now, because of the algorithms of social media, it's harder to do it on social media. I think we have to go back into the community. We got to be there. They're in your community now. Yeah. And don't go in and say, let me tell you what we stand for. Go in and say, hey, my name's Stephanie. What's yours? Yeah. Yeah. What are you worried about? I've been worried about X. That's how we got to start this. We got to start having conversations.
Stephanie. That's good. You should write a book about it, because I swear you really... You're so good at this. I'm so glad you wrote this book. Okay. I wanted to pass on a hello from Victoria Perone. She said she used to be an intern at Emily's List in 2012. Yeah. And she now runs her own compliance firm. And she wanted to thank you for all your inspiration over the years.
Congratulations. Taking it on. Doing it. Oh, businesswoman. I love it.
Yes. She has a question, though. She has a sister who is complaining a bit about the school board, and Victoria thinks that she should run, but she's a little reticent because she has some disabilities that she's working through. And she wants to know what's the best way to convince her sister that she can have the local support to run.
Well, it is about asking the tough questions. And it sounds like your sister's asking some tough questions, and without like sharing more information, you got to walk through that. I think part of it sounds like in this case, is that she needs to know she's not going to be by herself in the process, which she won't be, because you'll be there. And then you will be part of this team that gets others involved, and she won't do it by yourself. You can't win by yourself. You can't do these jobs by yourself. You can't really do. First off, it's not fun.
Right.
You don't want to. You don't want to do anything by yourself. It's just not fun. But you also you need the support. And so I would say, hey, not only you should do this, I'll be with you. And that's probably the bit that she may need right now, is to know that she's not jumping in, and she'll be by herself once she jumps.
Right. Thanks for that, Victoria. So we have another question from Stephanie Wiseman. She says, it's hard to consider running when you're on a single income household. How do you make the transition to financially work through it all?
Oh, Stephanie, this is one of my biggest frustrations. And I hate to say it, we have lost too many good candidates, particularly candidates of color, who just cannot afford to run. And I mean, just personally can't afford the rent and the food and because you've got to spend so much time running for office and you often lose some income. That is a broken system that we need to fix, we need to change. And there's things that I would like to see changed in our systems. For instance, when Gretchen Shirley was running for Congress, she went to the Federal Election Commission, which is the federal entity that oversees elections in this country, and asked that they allow the payment or the covering of childcare. That seems really a no-brainer to me. Like,
Right.
if you're running for office all night long, you got to go talk to, you got 5 events in an evening. Someone's got to watch the kids, particularly if you're a single mom. Who's going to pay for that? The campaign should cover childcare, and the Federal Election Commission agreed to do that. I think we should take it to the next step. I think we need to call a truce and find ways to allow campaign committees to cover other personal costs, so people of all backgrounds can run, because it's just too plain, it can be too expensive, particularly for the federal offices. In the state offices, same thing. But then you've got another challenge, Stephanie, is that in some states, you run, it takes up, your work and you run, so you've got 2 full-time jobs, because it's a full-time job to run for office, even if you're running for the legislature. Then so you're exhausted. You get the job, and the job doesn't pay anything in some states. You get like a per diem. We got to change that too. And I know people don't want to hear we should be paying our elected officials, but we are asking our elected officials to give up half or more of their lives to us, to thinking about what's best for our communities. And I know I am not on a platform here that people think, yeah, that's right, we should be paying for our elected officials. I want you to think about what these elected officials go through to get there, to serve, and what they could be doing if they weren't.
That's right.
The soccer games that they miss of their children, the dinners that they miss because of late votes, the airline tickets that they have to pay for out of their pockets just to be with their spouse, because nobody pays for that stuff. I mean, this is a lot to give up. And I know I'm not trying to scare people out of running. It's just an unfortunate factor that we have to fight to change, because until we do that, I do not think we actually get to a place where we have equal numbers of women and men, and particularly a representation of race in our governments. It is a structural problem that has to be addressed in this country.
Yeah. Well, listen, we are coming up on the end of our wonderful time together. I apologize to those whose questions we didn't get to. I wanted to just take a moment to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank the Free Library, and I want to ask you to please support this wonderful book, Run to Win, by the amazing Stephanie Schriock. And is there anything you want to say to close us out, dear? Anything you want to sprinkle us with as we say goodbye?
Well, I hope there's something in Run to Win for each and every one of you. And the other thing I'll end on is never say never when asked to run for office. You can say not now, because there's things in your life, but don't say never. None of us know when we will be called to serve. And we should seriously think about doing it. It can be even in the smallest of offices. They all make huge differences. So please think about where you might be able to run in your future.
Wow, that was perfect. So thank you, Free Library of Philadelphia. Thank you, Andy, for starting us off, and thank you, Stephanie. You guys, please get Run to Win. It's something that will bless your life. I'm Yvette Nicole Brown. Bye, guys.
Goodbye. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.